welcome to the Athletes Authority and Gatorade Speed Series. We start this series with our movement preparation. This is where we get our athletes to increase their body temperature, start to go through movements that increase their range of motion, which is really important to start doing before they're hitting their top speed running. First movement we have is our inchworms. So key one for this is we want to fold over at the hips, walk our hands out nice and long so we get some good range of motion. Walk our feet up to our hands, again, as far as we can, and then fold ourselves back up. Next, we're moving on to our world's greatest stretch. Here, we're looking for some really good range of motion to happen in the back hip flexor, but also some rotation to happen through your upper back. Key one for this is to take a nice long lunge position, rotate the same arm as the same leg you have in front before stepping through to the other leg. Moving on to our walking figure 4. Here we're looking for some good range of motion to happen through the lateral hip. Key one for this is to fold the leg over, sit down into a nice deep squat before standing back up and moving to the other leg. Moving into our walking lunge, we're going to ask the athlete to chase some good range of motion through the front leg, but also we're working on the mobility in that trailing hip flexor. Key one for this is to get a nice smooth rotation towards the front knee so that we can get a little bit more range through that back hip flexor. Moving into our lateral lunge, here we're going to chase a bit more range through a slightly different angle, mainly focusing around our adductors or our groin muscles this time. Key one for this is to have a nice big push through that front leg as we move on to our next leg. The next exercise is our Arabesque to Aframe. Here we're looking to hunt for some good range of motion through our hamstring, but also combine it with a good strong hip lock position. The key one here is to stay nice and long as you're tipping over before bringing the knee through nice and smooth and coming up into a nice strong position at the top before stepping through to the other leg. Moving on to our hammy sweeps. Here we're going to add a little bit more hamstring load as they're so important for hitting good max velocity speeds. So for this one, a really key one to think about is as we step through, we want to think of driving our heel into the ground to pull ourselves forward to the next leg. Moving on to our next drill is our Pogo Sequence. Here it's going to be really beneficial for us to have a nice stiff lower limb as we hit the ground because it's going to translate into our top speed running really nicely. The most important thing we want to think of here is as we're in the air, we're pulling our toes up, and then as we're about to hit the ground, we want to think of slapping the ground. Moving into our final movement preparation exercise are our leg swings. Here it's really beneficial for us to add some good speed to the hamstring and lateral hip before we get to our higher speed running. Key ones for this are to start to add more speed as you start to finish the set. Now that you know how to warm up and get ready to run, join us for part 2 of the Athletes Authority and Gatorade Speed Series, where we move into practice for acceleration.